So welcome everyone. This is Paul Bauer to How to Create Lasting Abundance. And those of you that have been listening to me about the principles of not just abundance, but what the mind and the heart and all these different pieces and how they come together, tonight is about creating not just abundance, but lasting abundance. That's the key word there. And as we go through tonight's video, I'll share with you what I mean by both words, lasting and abundance. So your roadmap is this report that I created for you that you should have seen. If you don't see it yet, well, then go into the link beneath this video. You can pick it up. It's in our Facebook group. That's for the people who are determined that they actually want to make some change. Like with all due respect, there's people who don't want, how do we say this respectfully? There's people that say they want it, but they're not willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work of joining our Facebook group, well, then that says something, like this is a group of people who are committed, who are passionate, who are excited, inspired about moving forward in life, not staying the same. And what we'll touch on in tonight's video is how to tap into this abundance flow within you. It's not outside of you. It's not in the world of the five senses, into the materialistic world. That's the illusion. Well, what's truth is what's within you. And unfortunately, for most of us, we weren't taught these basic principles. Tonight, we're going to delve deep into them. So first, let's define what is abundance. It's the essence of life itself. Life is, in essence, the most abundant force in existence. Everything in this world has incredible abundance. I don't mean just planet Earth. I mean the cosmos. If you look up to the sky, you don't see a shortage of stars. You don't see a shortage of the sun or of the moon or of the resources on this planet. So how is it that we've bought into other than abundance? Abundance for you is a state of being. It's the natural state of which you were born from. That's the key word. If you were born from an abundant state, then how is it that we forgot it, which we'll touch on? And it's a state of wholeness. So it's not about how much you have, but as one of my favorite authors, his name is Rick Jarrow, in the book called Creating the Work You Love, what he says is, it's about your attitude, how you see, how you notice, how you perceive what you have. That's abundance. So if you see the life as half full or sort of empty, well, then that's kind of like the lens you look through, and I'll touch on that as we go. So let's talk about how to awaken your abundance, the natural state of the flow of the life force itself as it moves through you. Now, for some of us, for most of us, that life force, that energy, that abundance consciousness is latent within us. It's lying dormant. It's almost like it's been waiting for the right opportunity to be awakened. It's hidden. It's sitting there in the background. And in many ways, we don't know it's even there. So we look outside of ourselves because we can't see it, feel it, find it, notice it. What if it's there, number one? Number two, and there was a way for you to bring it back out in the open so that it became your natural state once again? What if? Now, look at the treasure map that I have there on the screen. Here's where it starts getting interesting, okay? This is not just a metaphor. This is actually how we play this game of life. Your abundance is hidden in places you would never look. And this dawned on me years ago when I was teaching a course called The Secrets of Manifesting. And I needed a metaphor that would help us make clarity or get clear about, like, okay, well, what about this mystery of creating and manifesting what we want and having abundance? Well, when I showed people the treasure map, they got it. And so as I was putting this presentation together, I thought, yeah, that's going to make sense to people, because hidden in the places you never would look, for example, job loss or money struggles or lost love or financial problems, and the list is potentially endless, is the places where you have hid your power. And this treasure map is the journey along the way to reclaim that hidden power. I'm going to go into this in much more detail as we go. So how do we hide that power? because you got to be really ingenious to even do something like this, that you would deceive yourself. Maybe deceive isn't the right word. Maybe, what if I could just kind of like push this away in such a way that I would almost forget just how clear, how connected, how loved, how part of the oneness that I actually am. It shows up as heartache, disappointment, anxiety, fear, feeling isolated, ignored, betrayed. And also in needs for recognition, for praise, and for love. These are all ways that we hide our own essence. We hide our power. In essence, what we do is we give it away. And all of those require one thing, is the belief that you're separate from the thing you want. If you didn't believe that you were separate from that thing that you're trying to manifest, why would you need to manifest it? It's separation from the oneness, from the whole. So your abundance journey, if it's anything like mine, which has been up and down, that's a natural thing, folks. There's no one absolute way to suddenly become abundant and stay there. No. It's much more mysterious than that. It's much more fun. Sometimes it's daunting, I will admit, right? But after a while, you build a resilience that when you've got that resilience in you, it becomes like this second nature, different kind of roadmap where you don't fear the opportunity. You don't try to avoid the challenges as they start presenting themselves. You become not just a spectator, you become the one who watches, as Eckhart Tolle talks about. You become the observer. You start becoming the wave itself. Instead of trying to fight that wave, you actually go on top of that wave. Now you start riding it. You start surfing it. At first, you need a boogie board. Surfing is too difficult, right? And you're scared, Liz, of maybe leaving the island. But instead, what if you just maybe put your pinkies in the water, you saw the wave coming in, and you jumped back. And then the next time you go in a little bit, and now you're a foot deep into it. All the steps that you can take forward are your returns to the oneness. And the oneness in this case, meaning the abundance within you. So another belief, it's more than a belief. It's more like I created an identity out of this. And I say I in the sense of you, is a lack of wholeness. That's another thing that is a definition or a defining factor of a lack of wholeness, is a lack of abundance. So for those of you that have ever experienced money problems in the past, or are currently experiencing them, and that doesn't leave anybody out, by the way, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. Money isn't the problem. It never has been. It is the decoy. It's a messenger. That's all money is, as well as the other problems that we've touched on, whether it be heartache, depression, anxiety, fear, guilt, anger, whatever those things might be because of something you didn't get that you expected that didn't happen. Those were all like setups from your higher self and your subconscious to get you to be so focused, to get you to be so clear that you'd start paying attention to the messenger. Instead of judging it, instead of trying to push it away, you start listening to it going, this is so interesting. Okay, here's the question to you that I have for you. Think of a challenge you're having right now. Could be in the context of abundance, but in general, think of a problem that you've got. First question I have to ask you is this a one-time issue, or does this happen in a recurring way? If it's recurring, this is your inner self trying to share with you. It's the messenger that something is stuck on the inside. And what tonight's video is about is understanding the nature of what's inside, to free it up, not to get rid of it, but to understand its message. And this gets better the deeper we go into it. And most people that I meet, and I was the same way many years ago, was they fear what's inside when that's exactly the opposite of what we should be thinking and feeling. What's inside is what's going to free you. But because the mind has pushed it down, suppressed it, and then repressed it, it created stuck emotions, and they're trying to bubble themselves up to the surface. You know it because it's the way you feel. If you go to tears sometimes, if you are triggered by something, you don't know why, that's a feeling that's trying to release from your subconscious, from your cellular memory within your mind body. And if you try to suppress it continuously, you're going to create more pain. That is the source of any pain that you experience. Now, it gets better because once you understand, once you become aware that that's what the mind does, that's what it typically does, as we go further, there is a solution. So the last question, as far as money issues is, how much power do you give money? What do you ascribe to money when you think about it? If you've got some there, like open up your wallet or your purse, and just hold a dollar bill there. Like, what do you believe in that thing? Or think of your digital account with your bank or your crypto company, or how you get your funds deposited by your employer or Social Security or whoever it is. What do you believe in that thing called money? And that's more than we have time to talk about right now. But whatever beliefs you have in the thing called money isn't abundance. That is something that is based on something that's very limited. And we'll touch on that in just a bit. And by the way, no one's immune to money issues, not even the rich. So if you think the grass is greener on the other side, please step back and talk to your ego and say, okay, we need to do a gut check and a fact check here, because some of the richest people in the world are some of the most unhappy, disconnected, rather, how do we say it? Not fulfilled people. So just because there's more money doesn't mean that your problems get fixed, because money isn't the issue. It's just the messenger. So let's define the difference between abundance and money. Money is limited by its design. The way that it was incepted, that it was created back in the days of Adam Smith, and even earlier than him, back in the days of the Romans, was they needed something to trade. Goods for services, goods and services to be traded by some form of currency. So the problem is, if we create something out of the third dimension, then we are stuck in that dimension as we try to use it to create what we want. Abundance, on the other hand, is limitless. It has no limits. It's where everything comes from. It's a state of being. It's how you see things. It's how you feel. It's how life itself flows through you. So if you've read my report, I talk about the great myth. It's the elephant in the room. Very few people want to talk about it. Few ever question this myth, because they think they've been taught, we've all been taught from when we were kids, that there isn't enough. Now, if you remember The Wizard of Oz, you remember this scene. If you see the little dog in the right-hand corner there, everybody remembers who Toto is. And you can see the wizard there, and Toto has pulled back the curtain to reveal that he's just all smoke and mirrors. That is what scarcity is. It's a myth that has been contrived to become so much more than it actually is. Scarcity isn't real. It's the greatest myth that ever has been concocted or created. And because we've collectively bought into it, we've invested in it, we've actually made it bigger than it needed to be. Our kids, our family systems, our schools, our governments, that's for sure. And every institution that's ever been created has been based on this myth. Okay, so since we have scarce resources and we need to allocate them, we've got to get these scarce resources to other people. Okay, at the end of the day, did I make enough? Do I have enough? Am I good enough? Next day, same problem. It starts all over again. How are you feeling first thing in the morning? Am I good enough? Did I do enough yesterday? It's all based on this myth of not enough. I call it the not enough effect. So there is a solution to this. And again, we'll touch on that. The problem is, if you don't question that scarcity myth, that belief that there's not enough, it will go on as if it was true. My question to you is, do you believe that it's true? And two is, do you want it to stay true in your life? Because if you're willing to let it go and not just replace it with something, but let the real truth come out in the open and osmotically, in other words, like through the ambience of the air you breathe. There's no lack of air, is there? No, you don't have to go buy air. It's like asking a fish in water, how's the water? And the fish goes, what are you talking about? Because there's plenty of it. This myth is passed down for generations. So let's say that you start clearing some of your scarcity issues, well, one of two things happens. Either you're challenged because in your subconscious, your lineage, your cellular memory, etc., even down to your soul, that, well, there's this other stuff, that my parents or my grandparents, or, there was 19 Great Depressions in our family lineage. Well, there's good news here. And that is when you start clearing this within yourself, and this is one of the greatest benefits that you can ever do for yourself and for society, especially your family, is that when you clear it in you clear it in your generations back and forward, because everything relies upon you. You're here in this moment. There is no other moment. There's no past and there's no future, technically. You're like the focal point. You're the crux. And every time you dig deep within yourself and you do the work, so to speak, of which tonight we'll do a little bit of, just enough to give you like a taste of it, suddenly you realize wow, what if that's true? What if when I clear it in me, it clears in my family system? What if your kids suddenly start feeling better because they don't question their worth? Self-worth is a scarcity issue, period. Now, let's talk about this thing that makes us even think it. I call it the lens of scarcity. You can see by that graphic there on the right-hand side, the left side lens is foggy, the right-hand lens is clear. Which lens do you see through? If you have struggled with any form of abundance in your life, it means there's a lens of scarcity there. And that's not judgment. I've had my own, we have all had our own of this. This is the amazing thing about having a lens of scarcity. It shapes both what and how you see things. David Hawkins called this an LOC, a level of consciousness, an attractor field. It frames everything you see and how you see it. This is why even when you take a course or you read a book, you listen to a video, and you do some of the basic practices, that things don't change is because the lens itself doesn't change. If you're trying to change the programming without changing the operating system, all bets are off. Because the OS, the operating system, is still the old version. You got to upgrade your operating system. In this case, it's the lens. Now, how hard is that to do? It depends, to be honest with you. It might take you weeks or months. But what if there was a simpler way to do even that? Let's touch on that in a little bit. So it shows up as not enough. It shows up as not enough time, money, love, energy, all those things that we struggle with. Like, okay, you want to go have some fun? Let's go do this. No, I can't. Why not? I don't have enough time. Nope, there's no time in my schedule today. Your mind may tell you that may not be true or not. I'm not saying that it is or isn't. The question you get to ask yourself is this even true? What's more important than, let's say, this thing that my kids want to do with me, my family, or even, let's say, my job? I might say I don't have time to do that. But why would I let time, which is a creation of man, it doesn't exist in other than our minds, why would I let that bother me? Why would I let that slow me down? All these things of time, money, love, energy, etc., are all examples of how the lens of scarcity shapes how we see the world. But what if you could clear the lens and see things more clearly than you ever have before? I'm going to ask you this question as you close your eyes for just a moment. All right, let's have an experience. Let's go beyond just concept. Tune in, close your eyes for just a moment. Place your hand on your heart. Even if it's busy there where you're listening to this, if you're listening to this as a recording, after you hear these couple of words, then just press pause and practice what I'm going to share with you. Imagine that you are the source of energy that created you. How do you connect to it? With your hand on your heart, breathe gently with what we call a heart breath. and start listening to how you feel. When I say listening, paying attention. Start noticing. Before we go into something any deeper, it's listening and accepting how you feel on the inside. That is the key. Before any advanced principles, we've got to get the fundamentals right. It's the foundation. Once you get the foundation right, everything else is easier. Now, this may be just a small example of going into the silence, the space between your thoughts. But as you practice this with the right intent from your heart, not the mind, it's okay the way it is right now, even if you feel uncomfortable in any way. Breathe into that uncomfort. Any feelings of lack or disconnection. And on the out breath, just release that. Release the old energies, the old programs, the old thoughts, the old ways of being, appropriately so. Not all at once, just the little bits that feel comfortable just letting go from your mind body. And in a few moments, as you begin to open your eyes, notice this feeling, even if you didn't have a big breakthrough, and that's okay. It's not about having a big breakthrough. It's about noticing and being the watcher, the observer. This is one of the most powerful things you can do. Let's say your mind says, I already know how to do that. Really? Okay. If that's true, then why do you suffer? No disrespect. Why do you struggle? Why do you allow yourself to get into patterns or be triggered in any way? The observer isn't just a one-time thing. The observer is noticing how you feel during your day, during times of ups and downs, especially the downs. Noticing when something negative comes your way, and instead of trying to oppose it, you go, this is interesting. Here's that chronic thing coming up again. Wow. Yeah, what if I stepped back from it this time? What if I didn't engage with it? This is an art of mastery. I don't throw that word around hardly ever. I never put it in my newsletters. Mastery is a sacred art. It's not something that you get. It's not something you attain. It's something that you return to within yourself. And that is my mission, is to help others rediscover their mastery. And when you do it bit by bit, the practice of mastery happens moment to moment. Noticing moment to moment is a state of abundance unto and by itself. You need nothing else than that. If the mind comes in, we need to do this, this, and this. You say, thank you, mind. I understand. I get it. Wow. And you don't take credit for it. Like, wow, I'm really getting it now. It's more so like, wow, I'm in awe and humility of the beauty of just how sweet the moment is, even if my mind doesn't think it, doesn't know how, or my feelings still are in a state of unrest. I am not my feelings. I am not my outcomes. I am not my emotions. I'm something far greater. When I say I mean you. What I was talking about is in the euphemistic sense of you. So what if by doing this, you're clearing the lens as we speak and seeing more clearly? One of my favorite quotes is, it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. And when you see through your heart, when your heart becomes your guiding light, suddenly things get easier. Now, let's give credit to all the training we've had that was predominantly focused on the mind, all right? That's where we were hanging out up until maybe this moment. And because we've worshiped the mind for far too long, we haven't allowed ourselves to think, see, and feel through the heart. So let's just kind of honor our backgrounds. Let's honor like all the traditions. Let's honor our ancestors, that they did the best they could. Like that quote by Maya Angelou. When you knew better, you did better, right? You did the best you knew up till this point. And now we're learning the simpler ways. There's two ways to create. One is from your mind, goal setting, visualization, focused intent, all that sort of stuff, right? The other way is from your heart. That feeling is more like abundance. There's a state of flow. It feels like love. It feels like, wow, this is such a cool feeling. Yeah. When you feel from your heart, it's the access point of wisdom, emotion, and love. This is who you are. Your heart is the place where you park your soul. I'm not talking about just your physical heart. This is your sacred heart. This is your spiritual heart. This is the center of your being. And we haven't had nearly enough training with heart awareness as we have through the mind. The mind, we've worshiped it for far too long. Now it's time to come back to the heart. Now, one way that you do that is through the power of acceptance versus resisting. In other words, like, what resistance feels like, because whenever you feel pain, you're resisting something. Whenever you feel something not working in your life and you've got a state of like a lower vibrational energy of any kind, it could be anger, it could be shame, it could be grief, anything in between, especially things like disappointment. All that is a form of resistance. I used to hang out in disappointment, even though I had 5-figure months many years ago. I was in Hawaii. We launched one of my most successful programs. I had a 5-figure month and I was disappointed. Can you believe it? That's resistance. That is the opposite of acceptance and abundance. It didn't take me long. I did an exercise that I taught in the course. It was like, physician heal thyself. And it cleared in about 5 minutes. And I went, oh, this is so amazing. And again, I went back to that state of like that sweetness of the heart. So when you get into a state of acceptance, and what we really mean here is how you feel, now you begin to transform these energies. Some of them are primordial. They're deep, in other words. Other ones, they're simpler. They're like, okay, yeah, I'm a little disappointed. Stuff didn't happen today the way I wanted. Now, here's where it gets really sweet. Acceptance really is self-love. For a guy, it took me a while, to understand this. I had a couple really good teachers. Susan Castle, of course, was one of my best teachers of what self-love was about. But she didn't teach by lesson. She taught by example. And that's my hope for you, is that your self-love begins to come out even more normal, more second nature, in a way that you don't have to think it, that it becomes like almost like the air you breathe. You don't have to test how much self-love you have. You don't have to wonder how much self-love you have. Let's go one step further. Acceptance equals self-love equals abundance. So which do you think will last? Manifesting from the heart? Yeah, that's the one that lasts the most. Why? Why does that type of abundance consciousness and manifesting last? It's because that's the most connected part of you. That's the one that's the most profoundly real within you. And it's because your heart has more power. It's measurable in today's technology through things like heart rate variability. We understand that we can catch this wave. It's not just a beat. There's a wave of energy. In Western medicine only tests that little part of the top of that wave, whereas heart rate variability and serenity, it measures the whole wave of energy that's going through you. And we're learning to understand it even more. Harness it so that you can be and live abundantly. And you feel more energy when you're coming from your heart. The old way was from your mind. Yeah, when you see that guy's picture, that's a good example of he's in his mind. It's like, oh man, I just beat myself against the wall. My head hurts. It's the island of the known. In other words, it's the place I did my best with what I knew. That's all I know. It's stressing me out. It's the source, it meaning the mind, of doubt, fear, anxiety. Every pain you have, its source is because the mind is playing its old contrived games of only that which it knows. Okay. So it's the signal that we talked about before. The messenger, like what money issues are coming through doubts, fears, anxieties, etc., to help you release those old programs. So your choice is you can rely on the mind and get the same results, or harness the power of your heart. Now, here's the secret. It's not one or the other. And here's why I say this. When we started teaching heart consciousness back in the 2000s, people would jump on our Q&A calls, or they'd be asking us, in personal sessions, okay, I don't know if I understand this. You're telling me like to get it in my heart, but what about my mind? Good question. So that's why I say it's not one or the other. It's both. Because when you have the power of your heart combined with the awareness and the clarity of your mind, now you've got heart and mind working together. And you've heard me mention this before in one of our videos, and that is you enter the heart mind. And that is a state of unbelievable clarity, focus, love, abundance, clarity, passion, purpose. The words are endless, the definitions. This is the place you deserve to be more frequently. This is the place that you can be at will, with one condition: if you're willing to let go. Let go of the mind being in charge. Now, you've allowed yourself to be programmed to think that the mind was in charge, and it's created like a barrier around your heart, or multiple barriers depending on how many times you've been hurt. Hey, we've all been hurt, our hearts have been broken. But the breaking of the heart is what opens you to the new understanding. One of my favorite quotes, and I probably should have typed it in here, is the breaking of the shell. I'm sorry, let me step back. Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. That's Khalil Gibran. The pain is actually the emergence of your truth. But since no one teaches us that, we try to avoid the pain, and therefore we avoid the truth. It's counterintuitive, I understand. I wish I would have been taught this back in my teens or my 20s, and I would have avoided tremendous amounts of pain and suffering. Well, guess what? That's the way it's supposed to be. That was my soul's journey, and probably yours too. So that maybe you'll value it more, that once you rediscover this essence, this magic, this power of the heart, this most powerful part of you, the most authentic part of you, this is an imposter. It will tell you what you want to hear, and it will also tell you things you can't stand. The heart never speaks that way. It is always unconditional. If you say to yourself, no, that's not my heart. My heart's been hurt, it's been wounded, I'm feeling vulnerable. That isn't the way the heart speaks. That's the mind, the ego, covering up the heart and interpreting things for the heart when the heart needs no interpretation. Yeah. Yes. So let's talk more about the heart mind. What does it feel like? Well, you felt it a little bit before when you closed your eyes and you went into the observer state. Yeah. It's the state of, while you have clarity, you also are grounded and connected. Maxwell Cade called it the awakened mind state years ago when he studied the greats, the greatest sculptors, inventors, writers, athletes, CEOs, artists of all kinds. When they had this state, they all exhibited the same exact shape when he measured their brainwave states. Well, the interesting thing is he didn't measure heart wave states because back then they didn't have the equipment. Back then, you would have seen a very, very coherent signal coming off their heart. So it feels like harmony. It feels like a state of connection, a state of peacefulness, a state of oneness. And it's also very practical, because when you love what you do, when you're engaged and you're so there in the moment, you have a sense of like you lose track of time. You're so in the moment. That's the heart mind. And in the heart mind, within you, your manifesting power dramatically increases without question. And I mean in different dimensions of what you think things should show up, when they should show up, how they should show up, what color it should be, what shape and size, and all that sort of stuff. When you're in the heart mind, your heart begins to be the purifier of your intent. This is magical stuff, guys. Okay. And this dawned on me years ago. I was asked a question in front of a group of people. What is it you really want? And I stepped back and I said, good question. I want to honor the energy that provides me the questions so that I can purify my questions. I want to purify my intent. That's what I want. Because the purer my intent, the more pure the response, the manifestation is going to be. Even if it takes a little longer, because I don't want the short-term stuff to appease my senses. I mean, that's a banal experience. Now for you, you need to pay your rent, and your mortgage and your car payments. That's cool. That's fine. There's no judgment there. I'm just talking about, for me, like what worked and what still works to this day. This is what guides me, is teach me how to let my heart, how to let me let go of the mind, get into my heart, understand its manifesting power is so much more powerful than my mind can even grok. And by grok, we mean is conceive or get a sense of, like, what does it feel like? Grok is, the new vernacular. So when you allow yourself to grok in the heart mind, to feel, to be, to experience, not only does your manifesting power increase, you feel a level of empowerment that you'll be blown away. The stuff that used to trigger you, it just no longer does. That's a test of something that's healed within you. The same things that used to bother you, used to bring you down, that used to warp your energy field, the same words, the same statements, the same people, when they quote unquote pressed your buttons, let's stop right there. Just rewind the tape. Nobody presses our buttons. We let them by giving away our power. It's that simple. And instead, you use those triggers, those energies that used to bring you down, to help move you forward, to propel you forward. So let's talk about the truth. Money and abundance issues are the disguise. Just like what we talked about with the Wizard of Oz there. If you remember Toto pulling back the curtain, little Toto, as smart as that little dog was, he revealed the disguise of the wizard. In this case, the wizard is your mind. That's what's pretending that it knows what's best for you, when it's really your heart that knows. And behind this disguise is your hidden power. This is where the abundance within you begins to be, wow, it's beyond count. It's beyond what you could even maybe place value on. Oh, you could say, oh, this is the most valuable thing I've ever done. Sure, you could say that. And that's profound. We're talking about beyond words now. Getting into the truth of who you are, beyond the disguise, reclaiming some of your hidden power along the way, not all at once, because that wouldn't work. That would be too much. So let's talk about, as we start to bring things together here, what stories do you tell yourself? This is real key. As I was putting this presentation together, my intuition said, make sure that you help them understand the stories they say to themselves, number one, those are the most important stories. And then two, what they say to other people when it comes to abundance. What stories do you tell yourself? What do you say under your breath that nobody else can hear? The inner speech. What are you finding that you're saying about money or things about enough in your life? I don't have enough love. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough of this. It's this permeated disguise that the mind really it can't see itself, nor do the stories. So are you aware of the storyteller within you? There's a woman named Mary O'Malley who wrote an incredibly great book called What's in the Way is the Way. One of the single greatest books I've ever purchased, about that. It's not about the obstacle that Marcus Aurelius talks about. It's about that you notice that you begin to notice that the challenges are your teachers, like Pema Chodron would say. This very moment is the perfect teacher. Those are her words. This very challenge, this very problem, this very calamity is the perfect teacher in your life. But if you tell a story of, yeah, well, it's not good enough, that's my employer, they don't value me, or I'm not paid enough, or I don't have enough. I hear that through people's emails on a frequent basis. Yeah, well, I don't have enough, and, this is not enough, and that's not enough. And my question to you is that a story that's empowering for you? Is that the story you want to tell? Because if you are honest with yourself and you step back and you notice the story, you're the one that's allowing the storyteller to continue telling you that. Will you allow it any further? Do you want that to be your story? Or do you want to change the track? Do you want to put that old book away and start writing a new one? Start journaling what it is, not just what you want. What is it that you love about life? What are you most grateful for? What if your stories became gratitude stories? What if instead of waking up tomorrow morning thinking, oh, got to get this done, got to get that done? What if you woke up saying to yourself, one thing, I'm not talking about 10 things, like a gratitude list. What do you truly embrace in your heart that you are truly grateful for? I had to kind of train myself for this. I used to ask Susan, how do you do gratitude? Because she was so good at it. She'd say, what do you mean? And I said, well, you seem so good at it. She goes, I don't know. And I said, yeah, I kind of, you've heard me enough to know that I'm inquisitive, right? So I'm like the little kid and I go, well, right, but you've got some kind of a way of doing it. What is it? She goes, oh, I see what you mean. She closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. I'm watching her. She had a smile that came to her face. She goes, oh, in other words, it became aware to her what her strategy was. First one was she took a deep breath. Second one was she went to her heart. And then she felt gratitude. I said, are those the steps? She goes, oh my God, those are the steps. I said, we got to teach this to people. I was just like, this is so simple. Well, it didn't take me long to figure out that's how you do it. Listen how simple it is. She listened to the question. She let it move out of the mind. She took a deep breath, went into her heart. That's where you find your gratitude. You don't find the gratitude from the mind. I was doing all these exercises back in the 90s and the 2000s of how do you manifest this and how do you gratitude that? That's all mind-based. Now, I just go right into the heart. The mind just goes, cool, we're good. We know you are the chaperone, we know that you are the guide. Wow. So what are the stories you tell yourself about love, money, career, success? This is where the rubber hits the road. This is why you are manifesting what you're manifesting. And if the stories you're telling yourself aren't empowering, first of all, how would you know that? One is, how much pain do you feel? How much resistance? How much lack of peace do you have? That tells you you're telling yourself stories that are not abundant stories. They're not based on gratitude. They're based on wanting. They're based on needing. They're based on desire, disappointment, or whatever other negative emotions you might be feeling. So the real beauty comes in where you start stepping back from those and you go, okay, really, is this my story? No, this doesn't serve me anymore. If you journal, then start writing down these questions and these stories that you tell yourself. If you don't journal, I highly suggest you do. The most successful people on the planet, they journal. I journal every morning. I never miss a day. I often journal sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. Does that sound like effort? It's effortless. My stories are about abundance, about gratitude, about, wow, that's a heck of a lesson. Yeah. Doesn't define me. No, in fact, one of my greatest stories I share with people, and you've heard me say this before if you've heard my videos, is when the blank hits the fan, I turn it into organic fertilizer. And most of my friends go, cool, man. Wow. I love hanging with you, Paul. Like, where did you learn that? Honestly, that was in no book. I just kind of picked that up. Like it's like a Tai Chi master. And if you picture a Tai Chi master moving left, right, up, down, what happens is you begin to notice that there is no separation between those directions. It's all flow. They can intercept, they can release, they can take in, they can let go. That is who you are. That is abundance. It's not getting caught up with any one polarity, any one desire, any one thing that you attach to. Attachment means fear. Attachment means that you fear losing it. And there's nothing that teaches you more about letting go than if something leaves your life and you can't do anything about it. We've all had that, right? So are you willing to change your story? Are you willing to let go of you identifying with the old stuff? So let's review as we draw to a close here. Abundance is your natural state. It's wholeness. It is the essence of who you are. And in this natural state, you get to experience it, you get to express it, you get to vibe with it, and you start seeing your world shift and change, not because you need it to, because that would not be abundance consciousness. That would be cause and effect. That would be fear-based. That would be up in the mind. But because you're in your wholeness, your state of beingness, you're in the heart mind, you notice your world is shifting even before it shifts. In your inner world is where it shifts first. Then the synchronicities begin to show up and you go, oh, this is so cool. You've had that happen before. And it's like managing your synchronicities. We talked about the scarcity myth and how like Toto pulled that curtain back to reveal the illusion of what the wizard was doing. That wizard is your ego. That's the mind playing tricks on you, saying there's not enough. Okay. And the real deep part of what we start talking about was how you hide your power. All of us have done this in our lives, in things like money or recognition or the thing that we say we want. And when you get disappointed, when you start getting really messed up, there's like, it's not happening. That's expecting a lot. In other words, like almost being attached to it. And that tells you that you've hidden some of your power in that thing. The more pain you have about something tells you how much power you've hidden within it. This is a huge revelation. This is worth the time you're listening to this video. And if you choose to work with me in the future, I'm going to be releasing a course, the Serenity Abundance course, and I'm going to be sharing one-on-one with people through coaching about how to regain your power. It's not easy, folks. I needed a lot of guidance along the way because I was ready to regain more of it than I ever imagined I gave away. Oh, we could tell some stories about how Paul gave it away. Those days are over. The days of being so humble. Oh, I'm here to be of service. Hey, you know what? That's still true. But humble and doing it all the time and people not appreciating it and some people taking advantage of it. Sorry, that's enough. You didn't appreciate it. A lack of appreciation is a lack of abundance. And for those people in your life who don't have appreciation for who you are, you can let go of them. Or at least, let's say if you're in your family where you can't let go right away. Let go of your need for them to change. Accept them for who they are. Yeah, I know you've heard this before. I'm talking about doing it. I've had to do that with my own family member, and it works. If I stop needing the world to change for me, I come back into my abundance awareness. There is a direct correlation between your ability to let go and your ability to reclaim your energy so it comes back into you, and now you can focus it in one simple direction. It answers the question, why isn't what I'm trying and using and practicing not working? It's because a part of you is stuck somewhere in the past. I gave it away. I left parts of me, in those issues. It could be past life. I mean, this is where it gets deep, folks, if you want it to, if you're willing to do the digging. If you want garden variety manifesting, you've come to the wrong place. If you want quick little law of attraction tips, this is the wrong place. That's not how the universe works. The universe it's who you are on the inside. It's what you are willing to become again. It's remembering your wholeness. This is the most beautiful thing I can share with you, is that you are already whole right now. In this moment, you need nothing more. You are whole. You are loved. You are the essence of life itself. You are the God essence expressing itself in its fullness. And if your mind doesn't believe that, or if it can't feel it completely, that's okay. Breathe into your mind, into your heart with a heart breath. Bless your mind. Bless the parts of you that feel disconnected in any way. Place your hands on your heart and just love yourself enough that you come back into your wholeness, because if you don't do it for yourself, no one else is going to do it. So that brings our presentation to a close. We brought it all together with the heart mind. And that's really the best thing that we can do, is that self-love comes through your heart. The more you practice heart skills, heart awareness, heart consciousness, that's what serenity is all about. That's why everything I'm going to create from this day forward is all about serenity. You'll hear Serenity Abundance. You'll hear Serenity Sessions, Serenity the app. All of this stuff has to do with your feeling the serenity within you. And it's like a wave of energy that comes from what looks like out there, but it's really us at the same time. It's the God essence coming through your breath. That's how you experience it, is through the breath. And we'll touch more about some of these beautiful subtleties as we go. So that is our presentation. And I will put it into unmute. Anybody that wants to ask any questions. There's a few people that showed up that I recognize. Hello, everyone. Anyone has any questions, feel free to do so. Before we close. Yes,
Lacey,
sir. Yes, sir, Mr.
Great session. What was the name of the author? What's in the way is the way?
Mary O'Malley.
Mary
O'Malley.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah, it's great. I mean, really, I have two favorite books when it comes to dealing with adversity. Years ago, when I had quite a bit of it, this is after Susan passed away, my two favorite books, and I still have them sitting right over here, Lacey. If I could turn the screen, you could see them. One was The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Really brilliantly smart man. You know, he's a great marketer, but he's a great, I think he calls himself like a theosopher or something. He's definitely a philosopher. And that one addressed so much because he based that whole book on the Marcus Aurelius principle of the obstacle isn't in the way, it's the way. The obstacle is placed there by not someone else out there. We create the obstacle so that we have to climb around it or understand how to go underneath it or understand its nature. Hey, if you understand the nature of the obstacle, baby, you got it made.
Sharpens us.
What's that?
It sharpens us.
It does. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. It's a fantastic way to interpret it. You know, instead of seeing it as an opposing force, you give it power when you think it's opposition. You know, this doesn't come all at once, folks, but when it starts, when you open up your mind and your heart to this awareness, you're going to advance in ways that will blow your mind. Your heart will just say, I've been here the whole time. You know, like the giving tree. You'll be like, oh my God, I've never felt so much love. Yeah. Well, whose love is it? It's yours. Wow. And we speak from experience, right? Yeah. This isn't book talk. As great as books are, oh my God, you know, I've got books everywhere. It's not a concept. It's the experience of it. That's what we're longing for, as Joseph Campbell would say. You know, we're not looking for more life. We're looking for the experience of being alive, he said. Right? It's the rapture. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Why is it amazing? Because I used to suffer so much with this. I'm not suffering. Oh, that's too weird. That blows my mind. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, welcome back. Welcome back to who you really are. You know? Yeah. You can tell I'm a little bit excited and passionate about this stuff. Just a little bit. Yeah. So, any other questions? Let's see. James is asking, how do I know if I'm giving away my power? Well, as I mentioned before, check in with how you feel. If there is any pain, if there is any distress, and if there is a longing that you can't experience for whatever reason, what do you do about that longing? How are you responding to the lessons that are coming to you in your life? If you feel peaceful about it, you're not giving away your power. It's that simple. That means you accept it, which means that you're giving yourself the self-love that is automatic to you. That's what abundance is. Self-love is not a concept. it's not something that you can just take a course and feel self-love. Someone who's been there before, like Susan did for me, she didn't so much take me there, but she showed me the way. And I had to find it on my own. I have another really good friend named Edna. And Edna and I have been just good buddies for years, ever since she came into our lives when Susan was having her cancer issues. And we'll text each other real quickly. This is a cool thing. Like when we build accountability into the Serenity group, so you, like Rita and Gary and Ernest and James and Lacey, when you can all talk to each other in the Serenity group, which I'll figure out this week, you can have accountability partners. Like what I have done with Edna. She'll check in with me once in a while and say, hey, Paul, what's your self-love percentage? And I'll tune in. And I'll say, it's about 80%. She goes, keep going, bro. Keep going. Woo-hoo. Well, that's like sitting with them and talking a half an hour, because self-love is regenerative. Self-love is like the chi that you do in your qigong, your tai chi, your yoga, whatever, that regenerates the mind body. And I have this discussion with almost every friend I have. Like, most of my friends are above, let's say 40 or 50. And I don't believe in aging. They go, cool. Now, those are my friends. The ones who are new as friends, they go, what do you mean you don't believe in aging? Well, why would I? Well, are you saying it doesn't exist? No, I didn't say that. I don't put my power into aging. I don't think about it. Do I look in the mirror once in a while and go, hey, what's going on? Used to be all black hair. Big deal. Who cares about that? I used to care about it, Now it's time for what's really important. I used to dye my hair. Who is that for? You want to hear something funny? Halfway through one of our retreats in Hawaii, my hair started changing color, and you could see it in the mirror. And I was so embarrassed. I'm like, oh, whatever. And the people there were like, Paul, we love you anyway. Yeah, interesting. So I don't try to change it anymore. It's just, it is. It just is. And when we can accept what is, that's self-love. That's an abundance consciousness. It's not easy all the time because the programs pretend that they're in control, like the Wizard of Oz. Thank goodness we have Totos in our lives. Right? Thank goodness. I don't know about you, but I've needed more than 1 or 2 or 3 Totos in my life to pull back the curtains to reveal the sham. Yeah. Cool. So any other questions, folks? Thank you for letting me share what I love. This is my sandbox. This is what I love to do. And I look forward to learning more from each of you, because if you were in our first 2 Zoom meetings, we talked about the power of questions, if you remember. And the question presumes that there's an answer. They come from the same place. Oh, and my film retriever wants to join us here. Can you guys see Bodhi?
Yeah.
He's one of my great teachers. I named him, I didn't name him because of what the name means. I was calling him Bo before the name Bodhi came to me. And for those of you that know about the name of Bodhi, or the Bodhisattva, is it's the name of the one who brings light. And do you think this dog would bring light? Yep, he sure does. He's a great teacher of silliness and love, and yeah, he's an abundance teacher. Yeah. So anyways, I was saying thank you. Thank you for letting me share everything that comes through. Oops, almost lost my screen there. Everything that comes through, like when a teacher shows up in our lives, is really based on what it is that you want or need most. And I don't know all what you need. I'm just guided to do the things, the videos, the newsletters, and the courses, and then the coaching that each of us, each of you, can become lighter, more connected, more tuned in. Yeah. So that is about it.
I think Nancy had her hand up for a question.
Okay, Nancy, you can just click the, where is Nancy?
Nope, she did.
Well, I can't see a Nancy in here. So Nancy, if you have a question, you can type it in the chat and I'll be able to see it like I have with a couple other people. Ginger, yes, this is recorded. Definitely recording. So I'll post it to the website tomorrow. And then I'm going to open up our Serenity Facebook group for you talking peer to peer, because I thought I did that and it doesn't look like you can see other people posting, but your ability to communicate with each other. And here's the reason why that's important. There is genius in all of you. So we're co-creating this together. And the reason why that's important is because, so let's say that we weren't just in this imaginary room, but we're sitting in a room together. Mark could meet Ed, Lori could meet Lacey and Rita, and you guys start sitting together and you start sharing, and you start not just sharing your stories, but you share your breakthroughs. And one of the other persons goes, "Oh, how did you do that?" You become teachers. The teacher in you comes out even more, and your mastery is you get to practice it. Because when you start sharing how you do these principles, you get way better at it than just the concept of it being in your mind or even in just your heart, right? Because when you share with others, you encode. When I say encode, what I mean is you learn it at a different level. So one of the things that we're going to do going into this year is we're going to start training coaches to become Serenity coaches. And it's going to be cooler than cool. Yeah. And that doesn't mean a super expensive formal program. Those are going to be for the ones that are certified. People can start out as Serenity coaches for free just by sharing with a friend. And I'll share more about what that is as we go. So that's a form of thank you as well. Okay. So we are good then. If no other questions, I'm going to draw us to a close and say thank you. So in Hawaiian, they taught us to say these words, ahui ho, which means until we meet again, and aloha. See you soon. Aloha.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Aloha.